Audit. Part 1. Thermodynamic and Fluid Statics, the Baseline Physics. 1. The Thermodynamic Kernel Panic. Second law of thermodynamics. The scientific fact, gas pressure, is a state of equilibrium that physically requires a container to exist. When high pressure is exposed to a vacuum, it expands instantaneously until equilibrium is reached. The Globe claim, the Earth maintains a pressurized atmosphere, 14.7 psi, directly adjacent to an infinite vacuum, 10 to the power of minus 17. Torr, without any physical barrier, relying on gravity to act as an invisible, open-topped container. The contradiction. There is no demonstrable, repeatable laboratory experiment where gravity successfully separates a pressurized gas from a vacuum without a physical lid or container. 2. The mechanics of fluid statics, communicating vessels. The scientific fact, liquids at rest maintain a flat, level, horizontal surface. Fluid conforms to its container and seeks its own level. The Globe claim, the oceans form a convex curve around the exterior of a spinning sphere. The contradiction. Water resting on the exterior of a shape and displaying convexity violates the observable physics of fluid mechanics. Navigators calculate depth and trajectory based on a flat, horizontal baseline, never accounting for uphill or downhill curvature on the open ocean. Part 2. Optics and Navigation, the Geometry Glitches. 3. The rectilinear propagation of light versus curvature, the scientific fact. The geometric math for a sphere with a radius of 3,959 miles dictates a specific rate of curvature drop, roughly 8 inches per mile squared. The Globe claim, objects such as the Chicago skyline from 57 miles away, or lighthouses viewed from 60 miles, are physically hidden behind a wall of Earth, but become visible due to standard atmospheric refraction, bending the light over the hump. The contradiction, high-powered magnification, like the Nikon P1000 or infrared lenses, routinely pulls objects back into full view that should be physically obstructed by hundreds of feet of solid Earth. You cannot zoom through solid dirt, the line of sight must be straight. 4. Gyroscopic rigidity in space, the scientific fact. A mechanical gyroscope maintains its level orientation relative to its starting position, resisting any change in its axis of rotation. Conservation of angular momentum. The Globe claim, an airplane flies level around a curving globe. The contradiction. If an airplane were traveling hundreds of miles an hour over a curving surface, its artificial horizon, gyroscope, would physically tilt backward relative to the floor of the plane. Pilots do not make constant nose-down adjustments to match the Earth's curvature. The instrument reads a flat plane. 5. The flight path exploit. Great circle anomalies. The scientific fact. The shortest distance between 2 points on a plane is a straight line. The Globe claim. Emergency landings on Southern Hemisphere flights, e.g., Santiago to Australia, often divert thousands of miles out of the way into the Northern Hemisphere, e.g., Los Angeles, because that is the most logical Great Circle route. The contradiction. When these chaotic, heavily diverted flight paths are plotted on a Gleason's map, azimuthal equidistant projection, they form a perfectly straight line, indicating the planes are simply flying direct routes over a stationary plane. Part 3. Orbital Mechanics and Astrometry, the F-factory. 6. The 180-degree orientation paradox, the vector inversion. The scientific fact. If you turn your field of vision 180 degrees, the objects previously in front of you are now behind you. The Globe claim the Earth moves 186 million miles to the opposite side of the Sun every 6 months. The contradiction, the night side of the Earth must point into completely opposite sectors of deep space in January versus July. However, the stars and constellations remain fixed and perfectly cyclical, with Polaris never moving. The night sky is not replaced every 6 months, rendering the 180-degree physical flip a geometric impossibility. 7. The inferior conjunction of Mercury, the midnight glitch. The scientific fact. If an object is located strictly between the observer and a light source, the observer cannot see the object when facing away from the light source. The Globe claim, Mercury orbits between the Earth and the Sun. The contradiction. Mercury is often visible in the sky when the observer is in deep night. If the Earth is a ball, and the observer's night side is facing away from the Sun, looking at Mercury would require looking straight through the physical mass of the Earth. 8. The loop-de-loop pitch, apparent retrograde motion. The scientific fact. An object with mass requires a massive application of force to stop, reverse direction, and then resume forward acceleration. F equals ma. The Globe claim. Planets like Mars appear to stop and move backward in the sky because of an optical illusion created by the Earth passing them on a curved orbital track. The contradiction. To maintain the model without retrogrades being literal, physical loop-de-loops, The math requires stacking multiple unverified motions that violate the simplicity of local observation. 9. The helical vector summation, the bus and runner paradox. The scientific fact. To run a complete circle around a moving target, the runner must have periods of moving faster than the target, and periods of moving slower, or backward relative to the target's forward vector. The globe claim. The Earth orbits the Sun while the Sun travels at 448,000 mph. The contradiction. The Earth would have to accelerate to over 514,000 mph to overtake the Sun, and brake to 381,000 mph to let the Sun pass it so it could loop behind. This 133,000 mph fluctuation violates the law of inertia, as the atmosphere and surface water experience exactly zero lateral g-force. 10. The mechanical U-turn crisis, the tether failure. The scientific fact. Gravity is defined as a mutual attraction, a pull, not a propulsion system. The globe claim, gravity, acts as the string holding the Earth to the Sun as they both hurtle through the galaxy. The contradiction. When the Earth is behind the Sun in the helical model, it is moving away from the Sun's forward trajectory. Gravity, a pull, cannot physically whip the Earth forward with enough renewed momentum to push it back in front of the speeding Sun. The Earth would either be dragged linearly or flung off. Verbatim confirmation. Less than spoken _ noise, greater than can we get a full report of